All right, good evening, everyone. This is the October 21st, 2015 meeting of the Planning Board of the Town of Smithtown. We're going to begin it with the Pledge of Allegiance, and you're all invited to join us. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. The Planning Department would like to recommend the following items for adjournment because the applicants are not ready to be heard. Number 1, 2012-04 Storybook Homes Nesconset. Number 2, 2012-02 Carlson Associates Kings Park. Number 3, 2009-05 FB4 Realty. Number 4, 2015-05 Thomas Giswali Kings Park. Number 5, 773 Scholar Estates Comac. Number 6, 1135 2ME Platt St. James. Number 7, 288 Olivia Estates. Number 8, 1039 Garden Gate at St. James. Number 9, 1057.1 Richwood Estates Hopog. Number 10, 1156 Map of Open Meadow Fort Salonga. Number 11, 2010-06 KVC Holdings. Number 12, 911A Glen Hill Northern St. James. And number 16, 1153 Map of Larson Platt Smithtown.
Is there anybody present who wishes to be heard on any of the matters that were just read regarding which the Planning Department is recommending an adjournment? Seeing none, a motion, please.
Mr. Chairman, motion to adjourn the items as recommended by the department.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Those matters are adjourned.
The first item under new hearings, number 13, 1147 Map of Bridal Court. The request is for 2 retroactive extensions of the conditional preliminary approval in order to obtain more time to submit the final map application. The preliminary map of Bridal Court, number 1147, is granted conditional preliminary approval by the Planning Board on November 7th, 2012. This preliminary plat approval was valid for a 6-month period to end on May 7th, 2013. The Planning Board granted 4 6-month retroactive extensions to the conditional preliminary approval on January 2nd, 2015 that expired on May 7th, 2015. However, the final map application, including all requirements of Section 248-15 and Section 248-16 of the subdivision regulations, has not yet been submitted to the Planning Department. Therefore, the applicant is requesting 2 retroactive extensions of the conditional preliminary approval. The Planning Department has no objection to the applicant's request to retroactively extend preliminary approval for the subdivision known as Map of Bridal Court 1147. The Planning Department offers the following resolution for the Board's consideration. Be it resolved that the Planning Board hereby grants 2 consecutive 6-month extensions of time to the conditional preliminary approval for the subdivision known as Map of Bridal Court number 1147, beginning May 7th, 2015 through May 7th, 2016.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Vincent Tremarco. I represent the applicant. I've heard the recommendation of the Planning Department and concur with it and ask the board for their favorable consideration. Thank you.
Is there affidavit of posting?
I have it.
Please hand it over. And while he's doing that, is there anybody in the audience who wishes to be heard on this particular matter? Are there any questions from any member of the board on this matter? Seeing none, a motion, please.
Mr. Chairman, in the matter of the map of Bridal Court number 1147, I recommend we adopt the resolution as provided by the department.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? That motion carries unanimously, and that resolution is adopted.
The next item on the agenda is a waiver request, number 14, 1160 Sunny Road Estates, St. James. The request is to amend the tree preservation plan for the subdivision known as Sunny Road Land Division number 1160. The map of Sunny Road Land Division was granted conditional final approval by the Planning Board on May 21st, 2014. The request is to amend the tree preservation plan by removing a 20-inch oak tree on Lot 2. The location of the dwelling on Lot 2 is positioned 10 feet north of its original proposed location. This has created a conflict because the tree now exists adjacent to the driveway and will create an inconvenience for cars entering and exiting the garage. The Engineering and Highway Departments have no objection to the waiver request, and the Traffic Safety Department has no comment. The Planning Department has reviewed this request and has no objection to the removal of the tree. However, per the performance bond, a total of 6 street trees are required to be planted along lots 1 and 2. Existing healthy trees may be substituted at the discretion of the Planning Department. The Planning Department offers the following resolution for the Board's consideration. Be it resolved that the Planning Board hereby approves the request of Campo Brothers to amend the tree preservation plan by removing a 20-inch oak tree on Lot 2 within the subdivision known as Sunny Road Land Division number 1160.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Michael Strauss, 907 Main Street, Port Jefferson, representing the applicant. I think planner's report sums it up pretty well. The tree is really virtually adjacent to the driveway. It's just not really safe getting in and out, and we respectfully request your approval to remove it.
Have you handed in the affidavit of posting?
I have, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
And just so we can be clear, any action we're taking tonight has nothing to do with the 6 street trees required by the performance bond. We're only talking about the one 20-inch tree that's now too close to the driveway.
That's correct.
Anybody in the audience who wishes to be heard on this matter? Any questions from any members of the board on this matter? Motion, please.
Mr. Chairman, in the matter of Sunny Road Land Division number 1160, I move that we adopt the resolution as proposed by the department.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? That motion carries unanimously, and that resolution is adopted. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda, number 15, 1020A, map of KD Plat, Smithtown. At the September 16, 2015 Planning Board meeting, the Planning Board adjourned the hearing for a waiver request for the subdivision known as map of KD Plat, number 1020A. The applicant was requesting to waive the installation of sidewalk and curbing along the undeveloped Lot 2 within the subdivision. The neighbors in the new home located on Lot 1 were partially opposed to the waiver, expressing that they wanted curbing along Lot 2 fronting Havemeyer Lane. The Planning Board requested that the Planning Department seek information regarding the legal action and authority a board has on requiring builders to perform public improvements on undeveloped lots. The Planning Department contacted the Deputy Town Attorney and Attorney to the Planning Board and concluded that requiring a builder to install public improvements in front of an undeveloped lot is most likely not permissible. Therefore, it seems appropriate that the Planning Board not require the applicant to install any public improvements along Lot 2 within the subdivision known as map of KD Plat, number 1020A. If the Board wishes to act upon this waiver request, the Planning Department offers the following resolution for the Board's consideration. Be it resolved that the Planning Board hereby approves the request of Robert Fisher to waive approximately 130 linear feet of sidewalk on Scholar Lane and approximately 90 feet of sidewalk and curb in front of Lot 2 on Havemeyer Lane and Old Indian Head Road within the subdivision KD Plat number 1020. And be it resolved that the Planning Board hereby approves the request of Robert Fisher to replace the required 434.5-foot chain link fence along the LIPA easement with a white PVC fence within the subdivision KD Plat 1020A. And be it resolved that the Planning Board hereby approves the request of Robert Fisher to waive the planting of street trees along Scholar Lane and in front of Lot 2 on Havemeyer Lane within the subdivision KD Plat 1020. And be it resolved that the Planning Board hereby denies the waiver request of Robert Fisher to waive the planting of street trees along Lot 1 and requires that the applicant shall plant 3 street trees 40 feet apart on center, 5 feet north of the sidewalk on Lot 1.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board, Smithtown. My name is Rich Fischetti, and I concur with the resolution from the Planning Board.
Could you give your address and your relation to the
Yes.
applicant, please?
Yes, my address is 2 Hubble Street, Comac, New York. 2 Hubble Street, Comac, New York. The applicant is was the builder of the property.
And how are you related to them?
I was the original owner of the property. My name still remains on the performance bond.
Okay, and you've heard the analysis and the recommendations of the Planning Department?
Yes.
Okay. I have a question. The memorandum that was just read indicated that the Planning Department has concluded, apparently after contacting the Deputy Town Attorney and the Attorney to the Planning Board, that requiring a builder to install public improvements in front of an undeveloped lot is most likely not permissible. My question is, what is that based on? Is that based upon the town code? Is it based upon a state law? Is it based upon case law? What is it based on?
It's my opinion, and it's based on case law.
Do you know that?
The United States Supreme Court, there's 3 different cases.
Anybody have any of the cites on those cases?
Yes,
You don't have to read them into the record, but just want to know whether you have them.
Yes.
Okay.
One was called Nolan versus the California Coastal Commission. Then the second one was called Dolan versus the City of Tigard. I don't know if I pronounced that right. And then the third one, Lucretia just told me about from 2013 is Kuntz versus St. John's River Water Management District,
And these are Supreme Court of the United States or New York State Supreme
Yes.
Court?
United States.
United States.
Because, obviously the memo doesn't say what it's based upon, and you said it's most likely not permissible. Do those cases definitively say you can't do it, or you might not be able to do it? Because it says most likely not, doesn't mean you can't.
Right. I think it means really most likely. Without going to court, at least in my opinion, you don't know how the decision will turn out. But the courts have said that when a municipality requires as conditions of approval that builders either dedicate land or spend money out of their pocket to mitigate impacts, that's normally okay, as long as the impact being mitigated is directly related, as long as the condition is directly related to the impact, and as long as the condition or the degree of expense is roughly proportional to the impact. So the courts obviously haven't read this case, or they're not.
Not yet, anyway.
Okay, they haven't looked at these facts.
Okay, well, I note that apparently there was initially some requirement that the applicant put in sidewalk on Scholar Lane, which is not even, it's probably a half a mile at least from where this is.
That's right.
So would that have been permissible too?
In my opinion, no. It's not related
Okay.
to the impact created.
And the reason I asked this is because I've been over there, I went back over there again today, and frankly, I'm not inclined to dispense with curbing. The sidewalk, I would have no objection to not putting in the sidewalk. But and this is my own opinion, I don't know how the other members of the board feel, but I would not be inclined to dispense with the curbing on the adjacent lot, number one, for aesthetic reasons, but more importantly, for safety reasons. Because as traffic comes north on Old Indian Head Road, it makes Old Comac Road, it makes a left turn onto Havemeyer, and there's people who live in that house right there, and the curbing may serve as some type of a buffer, or slow down a car at some point. So my inclination would be, again, this is my own personal opinion, would be to go along with all the recommendations, except do not waive the curbing, the 90 feet of curbing, for the two of the reasons I just said, aesthetically and also, more importantly, safety.
Right.
So I don't know how the rest of the board feels about that.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree as well.
Sir, it seems to be that a consensus on the board is to allow everything to be waived that has been asked for, except for the 90 feet of curbing on the adjacent lot, Lot 2. Okay, we have no problem with the sidewalk being waived and the waiving of the sidewalks and curbing on Scholar Lane, no problem with that. Are you the one who would make the decision on whether or not to waive, to agree to put the curbing in, or does someone else have to make that decision?
I wasn't involved in building that lot, so wouldn't be involved. I really couldn't, I wouldn't be the one to put the curbing in.
Well, if someone is asking for relief from a condition, and if we don't grant that relief, then they have to put the curbing in.
Right.
So my question to you is, Are you the one who would make the decision to put it in or not, or is that someone else?
Well, Robert Fisher was the one who put the request in for the waiver. So I
Maybe
would
he
say
should come
he's...
here, maybe.
I'm sorry?
Maybe he should come here then.
Yeah, you're no
Maybe-
longer the owner of the
I don't...
property.
What's that?
You're no longer the owner of the property,
No, I'm
but your
not.
name is still on the
So I'm
performance
not really in
bond.
contact with him. I was just...
If he wants the application granted, he might be best served to come here. That's up to him, of course, but
Mhm.
I just think it would be better for the process if the person who is responsible for making the decisions is here.
Right.
But if things are discussed, they have the authority to say yes or no.
Right.
All right. Anybody else in the audience
Well,
wish to be
before-
heard on this?
Before you go, I have a question for
Sure.
Mr. Flynn. Do you have any idea what the 90 feet of curbing would cost?
I don't have the performance bond. They typically run somewhere from $12 to $20 a foot.
So let's go on the high end. So
Sure.
you're probably $1,500.
Right.
Not enough to warrant going to the United States Supreme Court, I'm assuming.
Well, that's a personal decision, because people
Understood.
have brought lawsuits over much less.
I get it, but I'm just curious as to
Yes,
how
I
much
understand what
of
you're saying,
an
yes.
issue we're raising. I don't
But-
think for $1,800 we're necessarily going to have.
No, but the person is not here, I think,
I
who
agree.
might agree to it.
I agree.
Which would,
I
you know, not make it a compelled situation.
I agree.
So maybe the best thing might be to adjourn it, have that person here the next time, and also would give us all an opportunity to look at these, those of us who wish to, these court cases,
Yes.
to see how they make it likely not permissible, as opposed to definitely not permissible. So is there anybody in the audience who wishes to be heard on this matter? Ma'am, come on up.
Hi, I'm Marcy Fontana from 59 Havmeyer Lane. I live in that house that's adjacent. I guess it's Lot 2. I think it's called
You're lot one.
Oh, I'm Lot 1. I don't know what lot.
What's the address on your house?
59 Havmeyer.
Yes, got it.
So I agree that a curb would definitely be helpful. I just had, and that's fine, I just had a question. When we originally bought the house, we were told that, you know, a curb and sidewalk were going in, that the town was making him do that. He wasn't happy about it, the builder, but he was telling us how that was going to go in. How could the town make him do that and tell him initially, and, you know, he told us too, whatever, but you guys can't enforce it?
Well, I'm not so sure that we can't enforce it. That's number one. But basically, when the project was in the middle of the project, or as the project went along, there was a performance bond put up requiring the builder to make certain public improvements. All those improvements, some of those improvements were listed here, and they included sidewalk and curbing in front of Lot 2. So there's a bond in place that is money put up with the town to guarantee that those items get done. The procedure, when they're not going to get done for whatever reason, is for the person who is obligated on the bond to come before us and ask
Right,
that
I
we waive
understand.
those conditions so they can get their money back without building or putting in these improvements. However, it seems to be, as a total board, we have at least the consensus here that we don't have a problem with waiving a lot of these things, but he should at least put in the curbing.
Right.
And apparently the person who has a decision to say, okay, I have no
It's not
problem,
here.
I'll do the curbing if you let me waive everything else, if you waive everything else, is not here. So I don't think it's really, we really should act on it tonight
Right. I
without that
understand.
person here.
And we have
Because-
the added ambiguity that we're not entirely certain as to legally whether or not we can require it.
Right, I was just confused because if you can't enforce that, why is it, from the beginning, why is it even put up there if we
Well,
can't
you
do
know what?
anything about it?
Well,
You know what I mean? I
that's-
just don't understand the
That's a good
process.
question, but whoever did it at the beginning
Right.
did it. It's water under the bridge at this point. They put
Okay.
those conditions in the bond, and maybe they didn't know they couldn't enforce it. Maybe they can enforce it.
Right.
I don't know
Okay.
why they did what they did at that point.
Gotcha.
But it's all done. So now we have to go forward from here and either waive some of the conditions or waive all the conditions or waive some of them and require one or two of them to be fulfilled. And I think we have a consensus of the board that we can waive almost all of them, but the curbing would be a good idea from an aesthetic point of view, definitely, and definitely from a safety point of view. And as Mr. D'Amato just brought out, with Mr. Flynn's input, it seems it's going to cost probably about $1,500 to $1,800 to do the curbing. So, the person who has to make that decision, I think I'd prefer to have them here.
Sure.
Because they might say, okay, if you're going to let me waive sidewalks on Scholar Lane, and you're going to let me waive, you're going to waive me having to build sidewalks on Scholar Lane and sidewalk in front of Lot 2, and I just have to put a curb on Lot 2, I can live with that. But that person's not here.
No, I
What we're going to do
understand.
is we're going to adjourn it. Hopefully that person will be here the next time,
Right,
and then we'll be able to act on it.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience wish to be heard on this matter? Okay, a motion, please.
In the matter of map of Katy Plat, number 1020A, motion to adjourn the hearing until we have further information and the applicant is present.
Well, I'm going to ask, I think that we adjourn it to a date certain so they don't have to repost it all. All right, so, I don't know, has anybody been in touch with this person, with the applicant?
Mr. Shetty was our contact. He's the one who's contacted us.
So why don't we adjourn it not to the next meeting, to the weekend meeting after that, so that if there's issues getting in touch with the person or the person getting here, they have more lead time to make themselves available.
Right. I believe that's November 18.
Yes, because November 4th is a Wednesday, so November 18th would be a Wednesday.
Right.
Right.
So just modify the motion that the matter be adjourned to a date certain, being the November 18th, 2015 meeting of this board. And with that modification, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. So adjourned to the November 18th, 2015 meeting.
The next item on the agenda is a zoning petition number 17, 2015-09, JF DeAndrea and John Jones Lane Corp. Number 1, reason for report. The planning board will conduct a public hearing on October 21st, 2015 to consider the above referenced petition to change the zoning of a site comprised of 2 lots from WSI Wholesale and Service Industry to NB Neighborhood Business. Number 2, applicant JF DeAndrea Corp. And John Jones Lane Corp., 40 Doyle Court, Northport, New York. 3, the site. The site is .78 acres, 34,305 square feet, and is comprised of 2 tax lots. One lot is a .47 acre corner lot and contains an existing 1,316 square foot filling station with repair bays. The other is a .31 acres and has a 1,000 square foot home. The site has 144 feet of frontage on Middle Country Road and 170 feet along John Jones Lane. The site is level with streets where the filling station and dwelling stand, and then rises with a steep slope up to the homes to the south. The site is 89 to 122 feet above sea level. The groundwater is 40 feet below the land surface, and the site is not near any surface waters, wetlands, or flood zones. 4, zoning. To the east are properties fronting Middle Country Road that are zoned WSI. To the north is Middle Country Road with land across the street zoned WSI. To the west is John Jones Lane with the properties across the street located within the village of the branch. To the south is zoned R10. Five, land use. Most of the commercial area in the vicinity of the site is used for offices and automobile service uses. To the east along Middle Country Road are motor vehicle showrooms and a repair garage. On the opposite side of Middle Country Road are office buildings and a filling station. Across John Jones Lane to the west are office buildings that are located in the village of the branch with Terry Road and beyond. The adjacent properties to the south are single-family residences fronting Crystal Court. 6, the proposal to raise the existing filling station and dwelling in order to construct a new filling station with a 1,231 square foot retail building and 2,520 square foot canopy. The site plan submitted with a petition depicts that 2 lots combined to provide for the single use. 7, planning considerations. The purpose of the petition is to facilitate more retail than is permitted in the existing zoning district. WSI limits the floor area of convenience retail at filling stations to 350 square feet. In NB, the floor area is limited to 1,000 square feet. The petitioner is proposing 1,231 square feet. If the town board rezones the land, the proposal be subject to BZA approval of a variance. The proposal will also be subject to special exception approval, site plan approval, and possibly approval of more variances. Also, if the land is rezoned, the land may be developed for other uses and or designs permitted in NB. The town's comprehensive plan indicates that most of Middle Country Road corridor, including the area in which the site is located, should be used for wholesale and service business. The intent of the plan is to concentrate retail land use into the downtowns in order to avoid the downtowns from becoming blighted by dilution of retail land uses. The Jericho Turnpike Middle Country Road corridor is intended to be the place to locate businesses that are not compatible with typical pedestrian-oriented downtowns. These land uses include primarily motor vehicle sales and rentals, car wash, repair garages, filling stations, truck storage, and other businesses that need ample outdoor storage. A draft of a new comprehensive plan was completed earlier this year. The plan has not yet been adopted. However, this does not suggest that the inventory and analysis studies of existing conditions and trends are not valid. The analysis reveals that the town has an excess amount of land zoned for business, particularly retail business. This finding is consistent with the studies by the Suffolk County Planning Department. This appears to be the primary reason that the downtowns have deteriorated. Accordingly, the amount of land zoned for retail should generally not be increased. The comprehensive plan recommends that in addition to the downtowns, there be adequate neighborhood business districts to serve the convenience retail needs of residents, employees, and motorists in the town. The update studied the issue again to identify areas of the town that are not adequately served. The analysis identified a few locations, such as Indian Head Road, but the neighborhoods near the subject location are adequately served. The nearest MB district is approximately 400 feet southwest of the site. Actually, it is oversized for the area it serves. It comprises 20 acres and includes 2 large drugstores, a convenience store, and several retail stores, similar uses. Having enough filling stations to serve the needs of the town was a concern in the 1990s. In 1980, approximately 80 filling stations were in the town. By 1995, the number of open filling stations has declined to approximately 40. This was due mostly to expensive health department requirements implemented in 1981 that forced low-volume stations to be converted to other uses such as repair garages. The quantity of filling stations appears to be sufficient because the ratio of filling stations per capita is the same as for the region and because 4 filling stations have reopened in the past 3 years. The notion of having too much WSI in the town has been discussed for decades. However, evidence suggests that the opposite is true. The vacancy rate in WSI is lower than in all other zoning districts except in SCB. Also, rezoning petitions for WSI are more numerous than for any other district. At the present time, 2 petitions totaling 15 acres are pending. From a public benefit perspective, the main reason to rezone the land is that the visual character of the site would likely be improved. The site has been vacant for years and is an eyesore. The petitioner states that if the town rezoned the land, he would construct a new filling station and convenience store. This would include landscaping that would make for a better transition into the historic district in the village of the branch. However, care should be taken in using this reasoning to rezone land, lest it become an incentive for owners to allow their properties to be poorly maintained. From a private benefit perspective, the main reason to rezone the land appears to make operating a filling station more viable or to be able to make the land more valuable. The large petroleum companies have evolved in the past 30 years to prefer operating convenience stores rather than service bays as accessory uses. This is partly in response to automobile industry trends. An increasing number of drivers lease cars and have a service performed by car dealers rather than local service stations. Also, cars have become more complex, and service tends to require expensive equipment and specialized training. As the need for service bays has declined, the petroleum companies have found that convenience stores fill the void. Rezoning the land would result in the demolition of the house in the rear. Reports from the Suffolk County Planning Department, the Long Island Index, and similar entities conclude that Long Island has a shortage of homes, especially affordable homes, and that this is hurting the economy on Long Island. Due to its location adjacent to businesses, the house is most likely to be more affordable than most homes in the town. The home is not as well maintained as most others in the town. However, there appears to be no land use reason why it cannot be maintained. In Smithtown, most houses on main roads and adjacent to businesses are reasonably well maintained. 8, referral to Suffolk County Planning Commission. Pursuant to Section 239M of the New York State General Municipal Law, this zoning action was referred to the Suffolk County Planning Commission because it is located within 500 feet of a state highway and the boundary of a village. On September 11, 2015, the Commission considered the action to be a matter of local determination. 9, recommendation. The Planning Department recommends that the petition be denied and recommends that the following resolution for the board's consideration. Be it resolved that the Planning Board recommend to the Town Board that the Town Board deny rezoning petition number 2015-09 by J.F. DeAndrea Corp. and John Jones Lane Corp. to rezone from WSI to NB certain land located on southwest corner of Middle Country Road and John Jones Lane, Smithtown, tax map number 106-4-1 and 2, based on the following reasons. 1, it is not consistent with the comprehensive plan which designates the area should be for WSI types uses. 2, there is an excess of land zone NB and for retail in general. 3, it is not consistent with the prevailing zoning in the Middle Country Road corridor, particularly this part of the corridor. 4, the rezoning would facilitate the loss of a single-family residence.
May I proceed, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman?
sir.
Thank you.
Name and address for the record, please.
Appearing on behalf of the applicant, Eugene L. D. Nicola, 200 Railroad Avenue, Sayville, New York.
The affidavit of posting.
At this time, I wish to let the record reflect that the affidavit of posting with photographs has been submitted to the Director of Planning, as well as the affidavit of notification with certified return receipts.
Thank you, sir.
Now, the applicant is requesting a change of zone of the subject premises from WSI, Wholesale Service Industry, to NB, Neighborhood District. The purpose is to redevelop the site with a new gasoline filling station and convenience store. The subject parcel is located on the southeast corner of Middle Country Road and John Jones Lane. The area around the subject premises is generally developed as follows. To the south, at the top of a slope, are residents which front on Crystal Court. To the west is John Jones Lane, and across John Jones Lane is a large office building and a former dwelling occupied for medical use, orthodontist, and those uses are located in the village of the Branch. To the north is Middle Country Road, and across Middle Country Road is a multi-building medical office complex. On the north side of Middle Country Road, proceeding slightly east at Franklin Drive, there is a gasoline filling station. Abutting the subject site to the east is a building containing Enterprise Auto Leasing and Smithtown Auto Repair. And if you proceeded further east along the south side of Middle Country Road, you have Fairview Street and then the Toyota dealership. Middle Country Road is a well-traveled state route, also known as New York State Route 25, and is developed with commercial, office, and automotive uses along both north and south sides. Now, the subject site currently has existing thereon a closed, one-story block service station with repair bays and an office. That building received a certificate of occupancy in October of 1960, 55 years ago. On the site, which is the combined site for this evening's hearing, is a two-story wood frame residence and a detached garage. The gasoline service station fronts Middle Country Road and John Jones Lane. It has 2 curb cuts on Middle Country Road and 1 curb cut on John Jones Lane for access. The frame residence and detached garage has a curb cut for access to John Jones Lane. At the southeast corner of the subject site, there is a slope which starts at grade level 94.57, the way I'm reading the topo, and rises to 122.28, or a grade differential of approximately 27.71 feet to the top of the slope where the residences are located, which front on Crystal Court. The combined site contains 34,305 square feet of plot area. It has a frontage on Middle Country Road of 144.93 feet and a frontage on John Jones Lane of 171.89 feet. The service station parcel has no landscape area along Middle Country Road or John Jones Lane. The dwelling parcel, it has a front lawn facing John Jones Lane and a gravel driveway. It is a very old dwelling. The applicant proposes now to redevelop the site by demolishing all existing structures, including the closed 2-bay gasoline service station with the office, the 2-story residence, and the detached garage. The applicant, in fact, acquired title to the adjoining property contained in the single-family dwelling and garage, and combined it with the existing gasoline filling station site to create a larger, more efficient site. The existing gasoline service station is located on approximately 22,000 square feet of plot area, and the dwelling is located on approximately 11,900 square feet of plot area. Now, the applicant will erect a new canopy with 6 multi-product dispensers beneath. The canopy is on the board to my right against the table. Excuse me. It'll have 6 multi-product dispensers, 2 diesel islands beneath the canopy, and a new convenience store with the elevation in front of the podium from which I am speaking, containing 1,231 square feet of gross floor area. The redeveloped site will meet the 50-foot front yard setback from both Middle Country Road and John Jones Lane. It will meet the 50-foot residential buffer requirement on the south side and will not intrude into nor affect the slope. The applicant will construct a prefabricated concrete block retaining wall to protect the slope. The total floor area ratio of the subject parcel, including the canopy and the building, will be 3,751 square feet, or 10.9% FAR. The convenience store will only have an FAR of approximately 3.6%, and the canopy approximately 7.3%. The current structures on the site have an FAR of 6,253 square feet, or 17.4%, so the applicant will substantially reduce the land coverage on the combined parcels. The subject parcel, when it is developed, will contain in excess of 7,000 square feet of landscape area, or 20.7% of the overall parcel. The site requires 13 parking spaces, and the applicant will provide 13 parking spaces. And this is in addition to the fueling positions at the 12 fueling positions at the pump dispensers. The redeveloped site will have 2 curb cuts on Middle Country Road and 1 curb cut on John Jones Lane, so that there will be a reduction of 1 curb cut on John Jones Lane, current 4 to 3. No repairs or auto maintenance will be conducted on the site. The change of zone to NB will eliminate any outdoor storage use, which may be permitted in the WSI district. As we know, the NB district is more restrictive than the WSI district. All lighting will be retained on the site. The proposed use is a quiet use and does not emit odors or dust. The parcel will be attractively landscaped, and the redevelopment will create a vast improvement, if you will, and I'm sure the board is familiar with the site as it currently exists. And what currently exists on there is an obsolete 2-bay gasoline service station, not well maintained, and the site is in a blighted condition. Now, I indicated to the board the architecture, as indicated on the board. The proposed architecture for the convenience store will be the general store type design with peak roof, cupola, hardy plank clapboard siding, and a shingled roof. It will have a porch with columns and dental moldings. The applicant, two similar buildings have been constructed in the town of Smithtown at the corner of 111 and 347, former Hess Station, and 3, in fact. There's one constructed at Kings Park Road and Middle Country Road, and one at Harned Road and Middle Country Road. So the board does have an idea of the architecture and the attractiveness of the building being proposed. The canopy will be mansard style with shingles to match the roof of the convenience store. The canopy lighting will be recessed into the canopy, the canopy also contains the fire suppression system. The architecture of the proposed canopy and convenience store as I indicated, will be a vast improvement over what currently exists on the site. Now, the WSI zoning district permits a gasoline filling station as a special permit use, and the NB district also permits a gasoline filling station as a special permit use. So both zones permit it. However, the WSI zone does not permit a convenience store of the size proposed by the applicant. The retail sales in WSI are restricted to 350 square feet, whereas in the NB, a 1,231 square feet store can be erected, even though 1,000 square feet is the maximum limit. With the architecture, however, it requires another 231 square feet, which is a minimal variance, which has been granted by the Board of Zoning Appeals in the past. The primary operation of the site is a gasoline filling station. That's an automotive use. The days of repair bay service stations are over for all intents and purposes. And I think the ordinance should, at some point, reflect that. Between the complexity of the vehicles, the cost of purchasing equipment to repair these vehicles, auto manufacturers' long-term warranties, long-term or leasing, 40% of the cars today are leased. The local garageman is becoming a dinosaur. My dad had a gasoline filling station, the first one in 1954. The industry has changed completely since that time. You no longer have a garage man or a gas station, service station taking care of your car. It's gone. The new marketing of gasoline filling stations are with convenience stores, and it's only a convenience for the consumers that come into the gas station to purchase gasoline. It's a convenience item. Gasoline filling stations with or without convenience stores are not destination points, and as you will note, most gasoline filling stations today are not standalone. If they don't have a convenience store, for the most part, they don't exist. Gasoline stations pick up pass-by traffic, that is, traffic that is already in the traffic stream. People today do not go to the gas station as a single trip. They combine it with another trip, such as shopping, going to and from work, taking the children to and from sports events, or what have you. Also, people do not shop in convenience stores, and that's where the retail component being applied to gasoline filling stations with convenience stores is inappropriate. People do not go to the gas station to shop. If anything, they pick up a convenience item while they are getting gasoline. Gasoline dispensers are equipped with card readers so that a customer who's purchasing gasoline does not even have to enter the convenience store. You put your card in the pump, and I'm sure we're all familiar with it. You pump your gas, you get your receipt, and you pull out. So we are talking about, and I repeat, a gasoline filling station, not a retail use. The proposed redevelopment will be architecturally attractive, a neatly maintained property, providing a service and product to the local community and the town at large. It will provide a stable tax base for the town for many years to come, and the redevelopment of the site will generate approximately 30 jobs during construction and 8 to 10 jobs after completion and the operation of the station. The station will operate 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, as they all do. If the change of zone is recommended by this board, there are no discernible impacts inasmuch as the site is a previously operating gasoline filling station with repair bays, which operated on a smaller site than is proposed by the applicant. The proposed redevelopment will provide a site with superior appearance, architecturally and landscape-wise. The approval of the requested change of zone and redevelopment will encourage the orderly development of the site. The approval will permit the development of a viable commercial use at this location. The uses proposed by the applicant is a gasoline filling station with a convenience store, and these have become integrated and compatible uses in the current business operation for filling stations. I'm sure this board is aware of the number of gasoline filling stations with convenience stores, as I have mentioned. Their efficient operation and attractive appearance. They are attractive in appearance, and they are quiet, and they are clean. The proposed change of zone and special permit will be in keeping with the master plan as the primary use and purposes is automotive and is located on a major trafficked roadway. The rezone request is not for retail, as we understand retail. It is a WSI use that, because of the size of the convenience store component, requires a change of zone to NB. Again, it is still a gasoline filling station and an automotive use. People are not going to walk to this location to buy an item. They're going to drive a car onto the site, purchase gasoline for the most part, which is the primary sales, and if they need a convenience item, they buy a convenience item. Now, with regard to the Planning Department memo to the Planning Board, which was read into the record this evening, the subject parcel, if you wish, may be restricted to a gasoline filling station with an accessory convenience store, so the site reflects a WSI automotive character. The maintenance of a convenience store as accessory to the gasoline filling station does not dilute downtown retail areas. If it does, then our downtown retail areas have more serious problems. It does not represent a shopping opportunity for gasoline customers, only the purchase of a convenience item. It does avoid the necessity of an additional stop for a cup of coffee, a quart of milk, 6-pack of soda, beer, or cigarettes. A convenience store does not substitute for a supermarket or a delicatessen, and the delicatessens today are practically full-service takeout restaurants. When you go in and you see the steam tables and all the food that's prepared, it's more than a delicatessen that I knew, which was a bologna sandwich on white 60 years ago. The convenience store has no impact whatsoever on any downtown business district. And as I said, if it does, then they have more serious problems than a convenience store as part of a gasoline filling station. Now, a Target store, a Home Depot, a Lowe's, a Costco, that will have an impact on downtown business areas, not a convenience store accessory to a filling station. It's a stretch of the imagination to argue that downtown business districts have deteriorated because of convenience stores accessory to filling stations. The spread of multi-tenant neighborhood shopping centers takes away from downtown shopping districts and may be a cause for some of the deterioration of downtown business districts, but again, not a convenience store as part of a gasoline filling station. As for the argument that the property owners will intentionally permit their property to deteriorate to obtain a rezoning seems absurd on its face to me, as there is never a guarantee of success of a rezone of property. And why would a person risk the value of his or her property with the possible anticipation of a rezone? The site is an existing gasoline service station with an obsolete building that received a certificate of occupancy 55 years ago, and it has outlived its usefulness, and the business model no longer works. There are now additionally, there are many specialty automotive uses. Jiffy Lube, Pep Boys, Firestone, Mavis. This is in addition to the auto dealerships. This has further reduced auto maintenance for repair bay operation. It's non-existent today, and I think we should really understand that. And I don't even know how to respond to the affordable house argument. This is not a location that a person or a family should be forced to live at. There is no residential climate or neighborhood or ability to associate with neighbors. If you're familiar with the area, it's a single house between...
Is the house occupied now or unoccupied?
It may be occupied, I don't know.
Occupied?
I saw a bicycle on the front, it may be occupied. You have the slope on the south, 22 feet up in the air. You have the gasoline station, and this house fronts on John Jones Lane. If you have children, who do they play with? Where do they go? How do they get out of there? And a house of this nature, leaving it becomes a problem. It's an isolated house. This is where your problems start with isolated homes. It is placing a family in isolation and causing any children at this location to be confined without other playmates. I respectfully but strongly disagree with the conclusions and reasons of the planning report. The proposed site is consistent with the comprehensive plan. It is an automotive use on Middle Country Road near car dealerships and other automotive uses. It is not a retail use. It is not proposed to be a retail use. It is a WI use with a filling station as its primary purpose and use. It has to be put, under our ordinance, we have to put it in the NB zone only to construct a decent, attractive building, which building will also have handicap bathrooms, storage, office, and counter areas. It's not all sales area. It is precisely consistent with the prevailing uses on Middle Country Road as a gasoline filling station, as I have indicated, and the loss of the single-family dwelling that is wholly inconsistent, by the way, with the Middle Country Road corridor. And of course, let's not even speak of it about an affordable home. At this time, Mr. Chairman, if I may present some traffic testimony.
Certainly.
Thank you. Mr. Wayne Miller. Mr. Muller, would you please state your name, address, and profession for the board?
Excuse me. Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Wayne Muller. I'm with the firm of RMS Engineering. Our offices are at 355 New York Avenue, Huntington, New York. I am a licensed professional engineer in the state of New York and have been working on traffic studies and providing testimony before this board, other boards, town boards, zoning boards for approximately the past 25 years.
Do you have written qualifications?
I did not bring them with me.
Okay, but, all right, then you state your qualifications for the board then. Have you made a site and area
Mr.
inspection?
DiNicola,
Yes.
I'm just going to ask you, because we're being recorded, if you could pass the microphone back and forth.
Okay.
Or speak into the microphone individually as you speak, so that we make sure that we get your voice on the recording.
I thought I had a loud enough voice, but I'll speak into the
want to make
microphone.
sure.
Okay, thank you. Have you made a site and area inspection for this application, Mr. Muller?
Yes, I have.
Have you analyzed the traffic conditions in the area, and have you prepared a written traffic study with regard to such traffic conditions?
Yes, I have.
Would you briefly present to the board your findings with regard to the traffic, impact, if any, with regard to the proposed use as proposed by the applicant, and submit any written reports you may have to the board?
Sure. For the record, I'd like to submit copies of an analysis prepared by my firm dated October 21st, 2015.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The receipt of the October 21st, 2015 analysis of RMS Engineering is acknowledged, and it shall be made part of the record.
One more copy? You have it? Sorry if my voice is a little hoarse. I was at a high school soccer game this afternoon, and fortunately Huntington and Smithtown was tied. I was hoping that Huntington would win, but that didn't happen. But just to briefly
You're in
summarize...
Smithtown when you're saying that, though.
That's all right. You have to be honest, though,
Okay.
right? But just to briefly summarize the results of our analysis, as Mr. DiNicola has adequately explained, it is proposed to construct a gasoline service station with a convenience market on the subject property, which is located on the southeast corner of the intersection of Middle Country Road, also known as New York State Route 25, and John Jones Lane in Smithtown. Access to the property will be via a single curb cut on John Jones Lane, which we anticipate would be configured for all entering and exiting movements. Left turns in, left turns out, right turns in, and right turns out. The applicant is proposing to retain the existing curb cuts on Middle Country Road. The westerly driveway would be configured for essentially entering traffic, and then the easterly driveway would be configured for exiting traffic. Based on our observations of the traffic conditions along the project frontage, it is our recommendation that the movements be restricted to right turns in and right turns out. Left turns out should be prohibited from the site to westbound Middle Country Road, and also left turns in to the project site from Middle Country Road should be performed on John Jones Lane. Vehicles should make the left onto John Jones Lane and then make the left turn into the project site. As indicated on the plans prepared by FST, 13 parking spaces are required for the development, 13 are provided. We are not seeking a parking variance as part of this application. In order to determine the level of traffic activity at the intersection of John Jones Lane, we performed traffic volume data counts at that intersection on Tuesday, October 13, 2015, between the hours of 7 o'clock in the morning and 9 o'clock in the morning. That representing the morning travel to work period, or the commuter peak period at that time, 11 o'clock in the morning to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, encompassing the midday peak period, and 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock, routinely the drive home. And then we performed also counts on Saturday, October 10, 2015, between 11 o'clock in the morning and 2 o'clock in the afternoon, representing the Saturday midday travel periods. We compiled that data and computed the peak hour for each of those 4 time periods. And essentially, we were able to then analyze what the existing condition would be at the intersection. We then expanded that data for 2 years using a growth factor that we obtained from the New York State Department of Transportation. Growth rate for this area is 1.1% per year. That would encompass the no-build condition. Essentially, future conditions in 2 years, assuming this project were approved, what would the traffic conditions be at that time period? And we would call that the no-build period. In order to estimate the quantity of traffic that would be generated by the proposed gas station with the convenience market, we pooled data from a couple of sources, the first one being the Institute of Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Manual, which is the industry standard that allows traffic engineers such as myself and others to estimate the quantity of traffic generated by a specific land use, one of them being a gasoline station with a convenience market. And also, based on studies that we performed in the town of Smithtown for other applications, and I believe Mr. DiNicola had briefly touched on those, that would be the HES that was installed and constructed at the corner of Harned Road and Route 25 further to the west, or that would be Indian Head Road, I believe Indian Head's on the north side, Harned's on the south side. It's on the southeast corner. Also, the house that was constructed at the corner of Kings Park Road and Route 25, which is also further to the west of the subject. The data that we utilized was collected at the existing fueling station at 1173 Jericho Turnpike in Comac. We looked at the station that's at Route 111 and 347, and we also looked at the house that was at the corner of 347 and Mount Pleasant Road, and we essentially computed a traffic generation rate for utilizing that information in order to project the quantity of traffic that would be generated by the proposed fueling station. As indicated by Mr. DiNicola, and which would seem kind of intuitive, is that the bulk of the traffic that's generated by these types of facilities is pass by in nature, meaning that the traffic is merely passing by the site and people decide to get gas, and it's not a destination trip by any way, shape, or form. The Institute of Transportation Engineers has indicated that a credit could be applied to the traffic volumes that would be added to the roadway network of approximately 70 to 80%. Our studies that we performed at the HAS stations that I mentioned previously conferred those numbers. The pass-by percentage for this type of use is extremely high. And essentially what that means is that there's really a relatively minor impact to the roadway network because the vehicles that are generated by the gasoline station with the convenience market already exist within the travel stream, and they're not newly generated traffic. Mr. DiNicola indicated, and as I would agree with, is that if we were to construct a much larger facility such as a Target or a Costco or even a Walmart, the pass-by percentage goes down because those uses tend to be more destination-driven than a use that's similar to the one that we propose here today. As indicated in my report, we performed a before and after analysis using the Highway Capacity Manual software, and the results of that analysis has indicated that we do not believe that there would be a significant impact to traffic conditions in the vicinity of the site and at the project site if the project were to receive approval and be constructed. Therefore, it is my professional opinion that based on the analyses that we've performed, that there will be no significant impact to traffic conditions if the project were to be approved, and that there will be no undue traffic congestion or hazard as a result of the traffic generated by the facility. However, as I stated previously, it is my recommendation that the driveways on Middle Country Road, the westerly driveway, be restricted to entering vehicles, and the easterly driveway be restricted to exiting vehicles, both right turns in and right turns out, and other turning movements be restricted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, that concludes the applicant's presentation. I would respectfully ask this board to give careful and due consideration to the presentation and arguments made by the applicant in opposition to the report to this board from the planning staff. If the board has any questions, we would make every attempt to answer them.
Before we get to our questions, is there anybody in the audience who wishes to be heard on this matter? No. Okay, then I have a couple questions, and some of my colleagues here on the board may also. First question is, can you give us an estimate as to how much revenue the town might expect to realize in terms of property tax revenue if the structure as you propose is built versus how much they realize from the existing structures?
I can tell you what I anticipate will be the taxes, and I believe it is more than what the current site is paying, but I do not have that number. But I would anticipate that the town, or the total tax bill, would be in the neighborhood of $35,000 plus.
Per year?
Per year.
Anybody have any idea what the two buildings are paying now? No? Okay. I'm sure it's less than that, but.
Oh, I think it's in the 20s, but don't hold me to that, Mr. Chairman.
Also, is there common ownership of the two lots? In other words, does the applicant own both the lot where the gas station is, the abandoned gas station, and the house lot?
No, there are two applicants here, but both entities are controlled by one person, and if the application is approved, the lots will be consolidated, of course, under one single title.
Okay, so in other words, there's separate owners now, but it's understood or agreed somewhere that if it is granted, then there'll be a transaction and one person or one company will own both lots.
The entire parcel will be owned by one entity. That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
And also, we don't have a map. I don't have a map, I don't believe here, but can you just give me an estimate of the distance from the back of where the proposed store would be, the shortest distance to the property line in the back?
It's 50 feet.
50?
50.
Is it a minimum of 50?
Let me just check with the engineer. Right? There's a minimum 50-foot buffer setback, and the building is just about on the 50-foot buffer line, so there will be a minimum of 50 feet, but if you'll give me one second, Mr. Chairman.
He could show us on that aerial, I think we'd
It's, the distance from the proposed building on the site to the rear property line will be 50 feet. There will be no intrusion into the 50-foot buffer requirement.
And that's the line going straight north and the line going a little east, correct?
Can you show us on the aerial, the actual photo?
50 feet right here.
Right, I see that, but what about to the east there? Is that also 50 feet?
Yes.
Okay, and Mr. Chase wants to see the aerial. Can
Yeah,
you
if
hold
could
that up for
Position
him?
the aerial in the same position. I guess that's facing north.
Here is the service
Right.
station.
Right.
Here is the dwelling. The slope is at this location, and unfortunately, this, I don't think it's a good representation, but let me see.
Use the survey. Show me existing.
Gene, don't forget to use the mic.
Do you see the survey?
Please use the microphone.
Sorry. Can you see the, here's the existing building, service station. Here is the dwelling, and this is the slope. The slope is on the property substantially, and it starts at this point and goes up to the top.
And you mentioned there's going to be a retaining wall placed.
The applicant proposes to construct I have the engineer here. Maybe you would like to speak to him directly.
Maybe you could just generally say how high the retaining wall would be, and would any planting be disturbed behind that?
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions, too. Is it anticipated that any natural vegetation that's there now will be removed in order to do this project?
Not that I'm aware of. There will be no vegetation moved, and the
Removed.
removed.
Because it looks like from the picture I have that there is some natural vegetation in the back of the lot where the house is.
There's a lot of sand there, really, is what there is. From my personal inspection, if you're looking in the buffer area, it's really sandy, and then the slope proceeds up like approximately 27 or 28 feet. This is where the retaining wall is proposed to be installed, and it's for the protection of the slope. Let me introduce Mr. Papazian, please. Kevin. Your name and address and profession.
Hello, members of the board. My name is Kevin Papazian, P-A-P-A-S-I-A-N, FST Engineers, the civil engineers on the project. All right, to answer your question, I think the easiest way to do this, it's a little unorthodox here, but just show you guys the survey because it'll answer everything. If you look at the survey, you could see the gradient over here. This is all going to stay more or less where it is. Our walls going to be in the bottom of this. This natural vegetation here we try to maintain it as much as possible, if completely, because it costs us more money to do anything with it.
So there is natural vegetation in the back of the
Yeah, there's some
lot
on the hill.
Okay.
But in front of that, there is none. It's kind of like, it's not unkept, sandy, whatever it is. I'm not too sure what you call it.
Who's just south over here?
Who is just south over there? There's some residents south over there. They're up on top of the hill.
Those are the residences that
They're on
are on
top.
Crystal
Yeah, on Crystal Brook
On
Hollow
Crystal
Road. Crystal Hollow Road.
Court.
Crystal Court.
And how far would you say they are from the property line?
The house, their house, it's tough to, all I could get on the aerial is a pool, so their house must be pretty far set back. I'm just thinking pretty far.
Yeah, you can see the pool in the
Yeah,
photo.
here you can see
Yes.
on this little picture here, you can see
Yeah,
the
so
pools here too.
they're a ways. They got big
Yes.
property. They got like an acre and a half, 2 acre properties there.
Also note that none of them are here,
No, I agree, yeah.
which if they had a problem, they would
Mr.
be.
think
DiNicola,
they
you
would.
know I like my buffers.
Oh, yes, and that is why we're maintaining, I insisted on maintaining the 50-foot buffer without intruding into it whatsoever by the building, and also the retaining wall was to make sure that that slope was protected, that nothing would go back there at all.
I think the slope itself is, is a good buffer.
Oh, it's, it's pretty solid slope. You don't want to, but you don't want people running up and down it, that's for sure.
Can you bring the aerial over? Thank you. Just to keep it the same way that the, it's helpful.
We'll
that way.
trade them.
Yeah. This is what we're
This enterprise, okay, I know where this.
Absolutely. I just couldn't figure out from the cutoff here how far the house is.
The other thing I'll
because you
mention
can see the
is
pool,
that
but you can't see the structure.
well, one of the things you plan on doing with the wall is that it will be a decorative kind of wall, be like a prefab wall, decorative,
the
have a
house,
good
the
look to it.
garage,
It's not going to be like this
trees
ugly looking
here,
solid
here's
concrete thing or anything
trees.
like that, so.
Here's trees. So this lot is here.
Would you hazard a guess as to the amount of sales tax revenue you might generate from the convenience store?
Sales tax revenue will be substantial.
And what is substantial?
I'm sorry?
What is substantial? 40,000, 70,000, you tell me.
Well, I've heard estimates of as much as a couple $100,000 in sales tax, depending upon the volume that the convenience store would do.
Thank you.
They do generate a substantial amount of sales tax, though. Each and every one of the convenience stores do.
Any other questions from any other members of the board on this?
I got a question regarding the traffic study. I see, as far as the stops and your traffic flow, but Jericho, that's I don't know, did they already figure into the fact that that right-hand lane is a merge lane? That's right in front of this piece of property?
Yes.
So you have the merge lane sitting in here.
Correct.
So you have the two lanes coming in.
That's
so
correct.
the cars on the right, if they do want to stop, they go ahead and shoot in here. People behind won't realize what's going on.
Well, I think that there is, if we have the.
You had another
the
shot
aer-
there.
The aerial photo, you could see that there is along the frontage of the site, there is this striped, there's the striped shoulder. So they would be able to take advantage of that and then perform the right turn movement into the site. And what also meters the traffic here, though, is the signal down at Terry Road, which when the traffic that's going, say, to go northbound to westbound on Route 25 from Terry, the eastbound traffic at that area is stopped. Though you do have the cars that then make the right turn from Jones to go east on Middle Country Road, but there'll be no sight distance impediments. The site's flat.
As far as because you have the two curb cuts that are on Jericho, so, and I understand you had the one furthest west would allow traffic in, the one furthest east would allow traffic out.
Correct.
Would that be set up and cut in a design, like there are other stations, like there's a Hess in Kings Park that it's cut on an angle to deter traffic to come straight across the two lanes, to go from across Jericho to the
I understand
left.
what you're saying, like more of a directional curve.
And then you would have to make a left onto John Jones Lane if you wanted to, if you are traveling from east to west, make a left onto John Jones Lane
Come
and
back
then
around.
cut in, because John Jones Lane, it's a cut through of people that want to hit Terry Road, but the traffic really isn't that bad on John Jones. So if they wanted to go ahead and make a left onto John Jones and then make a left onto the property, rather than trying to cut across two lanes, because like I said, you can have people that, and I travel this path a lot, so when you have that merge lane, it's like NASCAR. It was, you're going in for positioning to try and cut across some of the cars that are slow, and if you hit that and somebody makes a stop inadvertently, this is going to be an accident.
Angle the curb cuts. Yeah, absolutely. That's something that we could incorporate into the design, would be an angling of the driveway to make it less attractive for somebody, say, who's in the left turn lane to go down John Jones, to try to make the left into the driveway. I agree with you. I'd rather have them make the left onto John Jones and then make the left into the site.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that, without a doubt.
That's something that you may have addressed if it gets to that point with the Board of Site Plan Review.
Absolutely correct.
If it gets there.
Right, and with the Department of Transportation, again, if this project were to
'cause
proceed.
it's a state road.
It's a state road, we're gonna have to go to the DOT, and they're gonna have very similar concerns that you have and that we have, and that's why we totally recommend that a left turn out of the site to go west on Middle Country Road would be an undesirable situation because of those factors that you said with the 2 lanes going into the one, and also for the fact that, in certain times of the day, traffic on Middle Country Road backs up. And, you don't want to have a sight distance impediment of a car that's waiting on Middle Country Road. Someone tries to make
Well,
the left out.
this particular spot right here, this is your start of the congestion area, because like I said, you're going from
I
2
would-
lanes to 1 right there.
Well, I would consider it to be the end. The start is pretty far
Well, you're
down.
right. Okay, you're
Depends
right.
which way you're going, I
Yeah,
guess.
that's exactly,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But if you're...
One
yeah,
man's
if you-
start is another man's finish.
That's exactly correct. Yeah, I mean, the traffic in this area is not ideal. But again, to me, that's one of the benefits of the use, in so much as that it's not a destination use. We're taking from the traffic stream that's already there. I think that's a positive benefit from a traffic perspective. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you. Now,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
can I make 2 points?
yes,
First, with respect to the traffic, my reading on the Institute of Transportation Engineers manual is the traffic would actually go down if a convenience store goes in. For some reason, the number of trips per pump is lower when there's a convenience store than when there's not.
oh, you mean traffic would go down if a convenience store went in with the gas station as
Correct.
opposed to just the gas station?
Correct. A gas station with a convenience store apparently has fewer trips per hour per pump dispenser than a filling station without. The second point is I recommend that if the board recommends approval of the zone change, that the board put a condition on that the site be developed in accordance with Mr. DiNicolo's presentation.
Well, let me ask you this. If the board were, or members on the board were considering recommending to the town board to grant this application, if that was the case, would you prefer time to prepare an alternate resolution so that if members of the board wish to vote to recommend that the town board to pass it, we'd have a resolution to use?
I think it'd be advisable. I think that's a good idea.
Okay, because
And given the presentation tonight, I'd like to go revisit, knowing what I know about with.
yeah, I
it's
mean,
situated.
I think, I know, again, we're not making a decision now, but I know of, I think that it warrants consideration. I was there. I want to go back out there too, and I think if there are any members of the board, again, I'm not asking anybody how they're going to vote, but are considering recommending a denial, recommending the approval to the town board, then it might be best to have an alternate resolution prepared so that if an approval is recommended, we have the language, we don't have to go on the fly.
That's fine.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, because my initial inclination was to think that a service station, a filling station in that area would be appropriate when you consider the amount of automotive uses in the, I mean, Enterprise is right next door, Toyota and Honda are just down the road. I won't comment on the dispute between the two as to whether it's consistent with the plan or not consistent with the plan, but certainly the use you're proposing doesn't seem to me thus far to be inappropriate to the area.
All right, so with that being said, then what we're going to do, Mr. DiNicola, we're going to adjourn it. We'll adjourn it to a date certain for the purpose of, A, allowing any member who has not been there to go there and who has been there and wants to go back in light of your presentation and take a look around to do that. And also, to the extent that there would be a recommendation of approval to the town board, we would probably be better to have a proposed resolution to that effect, because we only have a resolution that recommends denial. This way, if anybody on the board does wish to vote to recommend approval, we would have the resolution language already prepared.
I agree, Mr. Chairman. I agree with what you said and what Mr. D'Amato also indicated.
So,
And that also would be contingent on the fact that it would be going to a filling station, not just...
yes, I think that's a good suggestion, is to perhaps have a condition, if it's going to be approved, that the approval is subject to the development in accordance with the presentation.
Yeah, you could
I agree.
develop that in more detail as to exactly what you mean by
Right,
in
or
accordance
that's why
with the
Mr. Flynn
presentation.
could,
Yeah,
we have an adjournment, and he can work on that himself in his office.
It could address the site plan
not doing it
prepared
on the
by
fly.
FST.
So I'm sure he could do it on the fly right now, but we're not going to ask him to do that.
no.
And I think it should. And of course, also any other conditions that perhaps the Board of Site Plan Review, if it gets that far, may wish because right now the curb cuts on the site plan don't indicate channelization.
Well, that's up to them. I think that's a
So-
very valid point that's been made, but, that's something that your traffic expert seems to be agreeable to.
Yes.
If everybody's agreeable to it, it should be done.
Even your
Yes.
positioning of pump islands could help deter people from trying to use the site. Even your positioning of pump islands on the location could help regulate traffic in essence.
True.
Mr. Flynn, would you need beyond the November 4th meeting to do that, or not?
No, we would be prepared November 4th.
Okay, so then what we'll do is we'll adjourn it to the next meeting, which is the November 4th meeting, for the purposes of having an alternate resolution recommending that the town board approve the application prepared, and also to give anybody a chance to visit or revisit the site before we actually vote on it. So with that being said, a motion, please?
Chairman, with regard to number 2015-09 JF D'Andrea and John Jones Lane Corp., I move that we adjourn to November 4th, 2015.
All, got 2 seconds, that's good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, so adjourned to November 4th,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
2015. Thank you,
Thank you, members of the
gentlemen,
board.
Thank you for your presentation.
The next item on the agenda is a preliminary subdivision, number 18-1148, Lots of Faith, Smithtown. The applicant is requesting to subdivide 2.53 acres into 4 lots. One of the lots has an existing church and school garage building. Another lot has the existing 4,668 square foot rectory, and the remaining 2 lots will be set aside for the future development of single-family dwellings. The applicant was presented to the planning board at its September 2nd, 2015 public hearing. The board adjourned the hearing to the October 7th, 2015 in order for board members to inspect the site and to allow the applicant and the planning department to address a number of issues that arose during the hearing. The preliminary map of Lots of Faith, number 1148, is comprised of a single tax lot fronting Edgewater Avenue, Juniper Avenue, and Mayflower Avenue, which is 2.53 acres and irregularly shaped. The property contains an existing church, the Byzantine Catholic Church of the Resurrection, a rectory, a 2-story building with a school on the 2nd floor and garages and a kitchen on the 1st floor, a parking lot, and numerous accessory structures. The applicant proposes to maintain all existing structures. The church and the 2-story school garage building will be located on Lot 1. The rectory will be located on Lot 3. The applicant is proposing to construct 1 dwelling on Lot 2 and 1 dwelling on Lot 4. Lot 1 will have a road access to Edgewater Avenue and Mayflower Avenue, and lots 2, 3, and 4 will have road access to Juniper Avenue. The site and the surrounding area are zoned R10. St. Thomas of Canterbury Church is immediately west of the site on the west side of Juniper Avenue. The Long Island Railroad runs along the north side of Edgewater Avenue, immediately north of the site. There are single-family residences to the south and east of the site. The site is mostly level, with elevation ranging from 65 feet to 78 feet above sea level. The site does not contain any wetland or natural surface water features. The depth of the groundwater is greater than 10 feet and no problems are anticipated with regard to groundwater. The parcel has been largely cleared of trees, with the exception of the perimeter and a few scattered trees elsewhere. The site has frontage on Mayflower Avenue, Edgewater Avenue, and Juniper Avenue. No new streets were proposed. All the lots conform to minimal lot area and frontage requirements for the R10 zoning districts. However, lots 1 and 3 will require the following setback variances at the time of final plat approval for the existing structures. Lot 1, reduce the front yard setback on Edgewater Avenue from 40 feet to 22.45 feet for an existing church. Lot 1, reduce the front yard setback on Mayflower Avenue from 40 feet to 33.16 feet for an existing church. Lot 1, reduce the rear yard setback from 50 feet to 22.6 feet for the 2-story school/garage building. Lot 3, reduce the front yard setback from 40 feet to 39.26 feet existing. Lot 3, reduce the rear yard setback from 50 feet to 16.33 feet. As drawn, Lot 3 also would require a variance to increase the maximum floor area ratio from 25% to 47%. However, the planning department met with the applicant, and the applicant is amendable to shifting Lot 2 approximately 70 feet northward so that Lot 3 can be expanded, thus eliminating the need for this variance. The engineering department has reviewed the preliminary plans and has found them acceptable, but has asked that additional details be included with the submission of the final map. The traffic safety department has reviewed the preliminary plans and has found them acceptable. The highway department has reviewed the preliminary plans and has found them acceptable, subject to the following revisions. 1. The applicant must locate all drainage structures on Juniper Avenue. 2. The existing catch basin will need to be upgraded to a new precast box. The Planning Department has reviewed the preliminary map and offers the following comments. 1. Based on size and layout of the site, the maximum yield appears to be 9 lots. 2. It appears that the Planning Board has the authority to grant the requested variances pursuant to Section 322-30.4A, 4C, and Section 248-31. 3. In balancing the 5 criteria for area variances, it appears, with the exception of the floor area ratio variance, that the benefit to the applicant outweighs any detriment to the public for the following reasons. A. The variances would not produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties. All the variances are for existing structures. The front yard setbacks exist and are not affected by the subdivision. The 2 rear yard variances are the only ones that are created by the subdivision, and they will have no impact on nearby properties or the neighborhood. B. The benefit sought by the applicant could be achieved by a method other than an area variance if it were to demolish a church, school, garage, building, and rectory. However, the church is a valuable community asset that should be maintained and would be a significant expense to rebuild the church and associated buildings in conformance with the zoning ordinance. C. 4 of the 5 variances are substantial. However, the exception of the rear yard variances, the degree of nonconformity does not increase as a result of the subdivision. D. The proposed variances will not have an adverse effect on physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood. E. The difficulty necessitating the front yard variances was not self-created because the structures existed prior to the adoption of zoning in 1932. The need for the rear yard variances is self-created. 3. The rectory was built in 1913 as a private home and became the rectory of the church in 1929. The building is thought to have been designed by Gustav Stickley, a renowned furniture designer and publisher of the Craftsman, and for this reason is listed in the town's historic sites inventory. In order to protect this resource, the Planning Department recommends that the building be maintained and that it not be expanded unless the expansion would be in keeping with or enhance the historic architectural features of the building. Also, to minimize the impact that the proposed rear yard setback will have on the adjoining properties, the building should not be expanded to the south. The following resolution is recommended for lots of faith, number 1148 from the Department of Environment and Waterways pursuant to State Environmental Quality Review Act. Be it resolved that the Planning Board of the Town of Smithtown declares itself lead agency on this matter and finds that this matter is subject to the State Environmental Quality Review Act and is classified as an unlisted action pursuant to SECRA. And be it resolved that the Planning Board of the Town of Smithtown does hereby issue a SECRA negative declaration. Determination of non-significance in EIS is not necessary. In the matter of the application for subdivision approval by Resurrection Byzantine Catholic Church for lots of faith, number 1148, for the following reasons. A. The proposal does not appear to significantly threaten any unique or highly valuable environmental or cultural resources as identified in or regulated by the Environmental Conservation Law of the State of New York of the Smithtown Town Code. B. The parcel does not appear to suffer from any severe environmental development constraints, no poor soils, no high groundwater, and no unmanageable slopes. C. The small size and nature of the proposal mitigate against a significant adverse impact upon the environment. D. The proposal appears to be compatible with neighboring land uses. E. The proposed wastewater generation on the parcel is subject to further review and approval by the Suffolk County Department of Health Services. And F. The project as proposed on the tree preservation and land clearing plan prepared by William Joseph Laddie, licensed professional engineer and dated March 17, 2015, provides for the retention of all existing trees and natural vegetation upon development of the subject parcel. The Planning Department offers the following resolution for the Board's consideration. Be it resolved that the Planning Board of the Town of Smithtown approves the preliminary maps of lots of faith, number 1148, subject to the following conditions. A. The final submission shall include all requirements of Section 248-15 and 248-26 of the subdivision regulation. B. The applicant shall submit with the final map a complete traffic sign detail plan and street lighting plan in accordance with Section 248-16F of the subdivision regulations. C. The final map shall show that all drainage structures will be installed on Juniper Avenue and that the existing catch basin will be upgraded to a new precast box. D. The historic rectory building on Lot 3 shall not be demolished, nor shall it be altered or expanded unless that alteration or expansion is reviewed by the town historian and determined to be in keeping with or enhance the historic architectural features of the building. E. To minimize the impact the reduced rear yard setback on Lot 3 will have on adjoining properties, the rectory building shall not be expanded to the south. And F. The minimum lot area for Lot 3 shall be 18,672 square feet. In order to accomplish this, the Lot 2 shall be shifted 70 feet to the north along Juniper Avenue, and Lot 3 shall be extended 70 feet north. Be it further resolved that this preliminary plat approval shall be valid for a 6-month period to end on April 7th, 2016.
Good evening, Donald King, 75 East Main Street, Kings Park, New York. I join in the application recommendation by the Planning Department. I talked to Mr. Flynn, and we've kicked up the rectory lot to 18,672 square feet, and we're ready to rock, and I respectfully request that you approve this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody in the audience wish to be heard on this matter? Please come up and give your name and address for the record.
Corrine Denier, Corrine Denier, 172 Landing Avenue, Smithtown. The last time this meeting had taken place, one of the things that the board was going to look at was the buffering between the existing rectory building and the existing kitchen garage area. And I just was curious, did you get to do that? And did you see any issues with the fact that, you know, there could be people in the kitchen yelling and, you know, hawking the food, where you would have somebody living in the rectory building that would be hearing all the noise? Would that be an issue?
Yes, it's an issue for me, and as I stated at the last meeting, but I find buffering to be very important. And the property lines, the other two lots that would be adjacent to, I guess, what's a bandstand and a large fenced area, I find that to be problematic, as did some of the other neighbors who, you know, live in the neighborhood. You have this rectory building, which I think is almost 45 feet in height, which would, and then if we grant approval, there'd be two smaller home on each side. We've all gone through in our travels, and not only maybe Smithtown, but in other towns where you see similar situations with a large building and little buildings that look so out of place. And you wonder, how did somebody let this happen? And I have concerns about that. If I lived in that neighborhood, I would certainly object to it, and I think that's how, when I vote on something, I say what I want this in my neighborhood. And your concerns, I think, are valid, and I agree with you.
And my only other concern is now you're sticking houses in the middle of two active church properties. You know, that
Exactly.
creates a lot of noise and whatnot, and I was
You know,
not sure how that would create a
problems where
disturbance.
people are going to be complaining to the church or whoever
Exactly.
owns that property in the future, and you know, there are certainly going to be noise issues.
Okay, so those are my concerns, and I just wanted to bring that up to the board.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anybody else in the audience wish to be heard on this matter?
Good evening. My name is Lou DiBacco, D-I-B-A-C-C-O, and I'm at 48 Juniper. And what you said before regarding the buffering and the zoning is my key thing, and I'm glad that you're on board with that, because, you know, over the past weekend, they had the fall festival there, and we were on the property, and we were looking at the rectory, and it really is a massive building. I don't really remember ever standing next to it and looking up at it. It's high. And, you know, any house that's being built over there is going to be, like you said, it's going to dwarf it, and it's just not going to look right for the neighborhood. But, you know, the property is an eyesore also, so something should be done, but in what scale? And, you know, I don't think any of the neighbors are really against something being done there, but it has to be done in a certain way, I think, where it's going to just look right and keep everything in scale, I guess. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. King, do you care to respond to either of the comments made by the two speakers?
Yes. That you don't like it is not grounds to deny. you're here under planning considerations, not personal considerations.
No, there are no personal considerations.
Well,
here. This is my town. I live here. And
Let
it's
me
the duty of
finish.
every
I didn't
member on this
interrupt you.
board
May I
to
finish?
do what's correct.
That you don't like it is not a consideration for denying. The rectory is there and the other building is there. They're not going away. That's not going to change. When an application is made by an applicant, it must be viewed in favor of the applicant. There can be no speculation or conjecture as to what may occur or could occur. You're bound by the ordinance. You can't, it's in our favor, not what you think may or should happen. And if 100 people come out to oppose something, there's case after case after case that says you cannot deny based on 1,000. This is not a popularity contest. Now, the two houses, excuse me, that are proposed meet all the zoning requirements, totally. And I was thinking, if you turn it down, if you turn us down here, we could still build those two houses. The only thing we're asking for, and that's what I ask you to consider, is the lot line behind the rectory, this lot line here. But let's say, just let's say you say to us, we're not going to give you this subdivision. We'll build that house, or we could build that house and this house and leave this within the church property. We're just asking for 3 lots because we think it would be reasonable to do so. So, of all the boards I've been before, for 49 years, this is the most minimalist application I've ever seen. That rectory and that other building are there no matter what you guys do. All we're looking to do is establish a line. We've increased the lot to 18,672 square feet. Both lots meet the requirement. I said it last time, you have to grant this. You don't have the authority. There's no basis for you to deny. You can't say, I don't like it. I think this may happen, therefore I don't want it. That's not going to work. And the fact that people come out in opposition is meaningless. It's about you guys interpreting your zoning ordinance. Your own planning department has recommended it. Therefore, I respectfully request that you grant it.
Well, I take issue with the fact that we have to grant it, but
Well-
that's a different, that's a matter of opinion that you and I differ on.
Yes.
But I would ask you this, if it's granted, and if there is going to be building on those 2 lots that'll be carved out, would there be mechanisms available in the process of those lots being developed that where the issues of the buffering could be addressed?
Certainly, I think
If anybody, in other words, if anybody does decide to build on those lots, wouldn't there be processes involved where the buffering certainly would be addressed?
If by buffering you mean, trees, certainly that, if you guys came up with trees you want, Leyland cypresses go to 80 feet. So if you felt that would be appropriate, they could put Leyland cypresses.
Wouldn't there be any site plan review at some point if this was going to be developed?
I think so, certainly.
So wouldn't if people had concerns about proper buffering on the property between what is being built and what's there, wouldn't that be something that could be addressed at that time?
Right. I just want to reiterate again, there are no current plans that I know of to do anything on this site at this time. The bishop, the parishioners, and the pastor will determine when and if ever something happens. So I just want to let you know that out of the door. But certainly if we had to go before site plan review of any kind, we would be required to put, if by buffering you mean trees and things like that, we'd be happy to do that.
Well, all I'm saying is that we have, the first speaker had some concerns relative to those issues, and I'm just saying that if the property, if the subdivision is granted, and if the property is ever developed at some point in the future, there would be a mechanism or an opportunity for those concerns to be brought up and addressed at that time.
Absolutely. I think they could go to the pastor, and certainly if we had a site plan where you guys made a recommendation with, what I'm trying to say is that this rectory building and the other building are there. They've been there for a very long time, and that's not going to change. All we're looking at is put a line there.
Okay.
We're not changing anything. And I'm not throwing the gauntlet down to you by saying that we could build these houses and incorporate the rectory within the church and not even bother with that lot. I'm asking for the 3 lots. We've done. Okay.
Mr. Flynn, the resolution that was read, at the very end, it says it's going to be valid, the preliminary plat valid for 6 months to end April 7th, 2016. Shouldn't that be April 21st, 2016?
Yes, it should.
All right, so then can we deem the resolution modified so that it will end April 21st, 2016?
Yes.
Okay. That being said, a motion?
For the secret.
Yes.
In the matter of lots of faith, number 1148, motion to approve the secret negative declaration in accordance with the recommendation of the Planning Department.
Anybody want a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed.
The resolution is, the motion is adopted. The motion carries 3-2, and that resolution is adopted. Next.
Thank you very much.
We're not done yet.
Oh, sorry.
That was only the secret.
Yeah, that was just one.
3-2.
3-2.
Me?
Tom and Conrad.
In the matter of the preliminary maps of lots of faith, number 1148, I move that we adopt the resolution as read in accordance with the recommendation of the Planning Department.
As modified
As
to reflect
modified
that
to-
the approval will be good for about 6 months to end April 21st.
April 21st,
2016. Okay. A second on that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed.
Again, that motion carries 3-2, but that resolution is adopted as well. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
I think that's it. Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. We're adjourned.